Portian look Tybra, Shock the Aodhán earlier.
As Concordia, ministers, governments are defined by the budgets that they produce, the money that they allocate, the things that they feel are important. And once a year we get a chance to reflect on those statements by government as what they deem to be important. And sometimes in these houses, when people, you learn of people from other parties who are resigning or not running again, you wonder why you get up in the morning, you wonder why you still do this job. You wonder why you come in here. And you reflect on that. And politics is a big influence on all our lives, and it has a negative influence as well. But the one reason I get up in the morning, Minister, and the one thing I care passionately about more than anything else, is disadvantaged education. Disadvantaged education. It's probably on the top of my priority list every time I get up in the morning, every time I think about anything in terms of my political life, it's disadvantaged education. Now, I could criticise the education budget and the fact that class sizes haven't been reduced, even though they're the biggest class sizes in Europe. I could talk about the capitation allocation, which is less than last year, and people are saying they won't be able to run their schools. I could talk about many other issues in education which I think are a failure in this budget. But the most depressing thing for me, Minister, because education is actually the great liberator. There is no better way or more effective way proven anywhere in the world to get out of poverty than education. It's the only thing that works. It's the only thing that works, proven internationally. And a government that is serious about educational disadvantage is a government that is serious about child poverty. Now, I was delighted when the Taoiseach announced, when he moved into the role there last year, that child poverty was to be his great burning passion. And in fairness, you have to meet that statement where it is. And you don't want to be disrespectful to that statement because you don't want to play politics with child poverty. But there is one thing that will move a child out of child poverty is education, is giving that child that empowerment to move out of their own situation. Now, I look at the difference between the allocation in terms of education to a very deliberate proposal from a number of DEIS principals in Dublin and 3 geographical areas in Dublin, around 30 schools who are asking for a new DEIS Plus designation. They want a new DEIS Plus designation because they are scared out of their wits about what is in front of them with the children that they are dealing with. They tell me that some children are already lost. They say that the pandemic has compounded educational disadvantage. They're dealing with parents who are showing suicidal ideation more than they ever did before. Children who are hungry, changing the route to swimming during the week because they're afraid of being caught in the gunfire of a local dispute. These are real, genuine situations in disadvantaged schools. And they have asked for trauma-based supports. Trauma-based supports so that the children that they're dealing with will be in a position to move beyond the situation in which they're in and potentially maximise their potential. Because the potential of these children is unknown, but it's been dogged by the circumstances of where they're from, intergenerational poverty, intergenerational trauma, intergenerational educational disadvantage. So the proposal was made to the Department of Education. And what is most depressing, Minister, when the Minister for Education could come out and say, look, we've listened to these principals. We've listened to them and we're going to make a grand gesture, a generational change of investment in this area because we've heard what they're saying about the lives that are at risk. Because whenever it comes to talk about antisocial behaviour, more guards. Talk about crime, more guards. It's always a law and order response. This will have a more profound impact on antisocial behaviour and crime over a lifetime of a child's existence into adulthood than any other measure. Under review. The Minister says it's under review. Under review. Horse and Greyhound Fund, 4.4% increase, up to 96 million. No review necessary. So I come to the conclusion that these children are better off being horses or being greyhounds because they get invested in. But because they're children in disadvantaged areas going to DESH schools with principals who are crying out for supports for them because of the trauma that they're going through, intergenerational, we just have to review it. Now, in all the conversations at budget, we'll talk about tax and we'll talk about spend. We'll talk about pensions, we'll talk about social protection. We'll talk about tax changes. We'll talk about the squeeze middle, tax burden. We'll talk about all these different debating points. But it's my responsibility, from the background that I come from, to speak purely on behalf of the one chance that these children have, is that somebody somewhere in government would listen to their life experience and listen to what the principals are telling them. And the principals go and speak to the Department of Education, the Social Inclusion Unit. There's about 100 schools have been identified, and what comes out in the budget, it's under review. And then you only have to turn a page to the Horse and Greyhound Fund, 4.4% increase, 96 million. Thank you very much. And that, Minister, is what I find most depressing about this job that I do, because it gives me absolutely no pleasure whatsoever to make remarks like this. These children don't deserve to be under review, Minister. They deserve to be invested in. In some circumstances, they deserve to be saved, but they definitely deserve to be invested in and empowered. And DESH Plus is a simple win. For your government, yes, but for these children, absolutely.